Brian and Beth Nicholson, and we'd like to tell you what God's done in our lives to make this Mother's Day particularly special for us. We've been married for nearly 13 years, and things went according to plan for the first few years. I finished college, we both got jobs, and we got a house. We decided it was time to add children to our family. That's the part that didn't go quite as planned. We weren't able to have children on our own, so we started looking for answers. The process was slow, expensive, and frustrating. After months of tests and procedures, we still had no answers and no children. We were unsure what to do next because how much time and money and emotion do you spend on tests and procedures with no guarantees of results?
But the bigger question we struggled with was why God wasn't blessing us in this way. After all, the Bible tells us that the children are a blessing from God. After a few years, I began to struggle with self-pity and bitterness towards God. My sisters and many of my friends had finished having their children, and I watched helplessly as they moved into the next chapter of life. I felt as though God had forgotten us. I had a decision to make: let bitterness consume me and ruin my marriage and eventually my life, or choose to trust God. Based on 1 Corinthians 10:13, I asked God to give me a way through this trial if He chose not to remove it from me. He gave me tremendous peace and comfort by reminding me that He was going to use this trial to glorify Him and to prepare me to someday stand before Him when this brief life was over. I began to focus on how I might use this trial to help others struggling in this area, which gave me much more joy than focusing on myself.
So God was teaching both of us some key lessons. First of all, our lives belong to Him. He doesn't owe us anything, and He has the right to use our lives however He sees fit. But secondly, when we looked at our lives in their proper perspective, it was clear that our lives weren't incomplete. They were already full of blessings. God had demonstrated His love to us and His grace to us in so many ways. So we were learning to be content and to trust God. But we didn't let that contentment turn into inaction. So after one last failed medical procedure, we turned our attention to other options.
After our friends Jamie and Jamie Johnson adopted a baby from a resident at Vision of Hope, we told the director we were interested in being considered if another opportunity became available. We also looked into foster care and other adoption options. We took the required classes and filled out a lot of paperwork. My mom was so excited that she visited garage sales to buy the equipment necessary to furnish the nursery. By the end, we had a crib, changing tables, toys, a high chair, car seats, enough to be ready for a baby. But we ran into some roadblocks. We had some reservations as to whether foster care was the right option for us, and traditional adoption came with a huge price tag and a long wait time. The dream of filling our empty nursery seemed impossible. Since it looked like we wouldn't be bringing home a baby anytime soon, we decided in early December to put some of the baby items away in our attic. That was incredibly painful for me because I felt as though we were giving up. I remember asking God to please give us some hope before Christmas as to whether we should continue pursuing a child. Otherwise, we would accept His answer as no.
Then on Monday, December 20th, we got a call from Jocelyn Wallace, the director of Vision of Hope. A resident had decided that she wanted a family to adopt her 3-week-old son and was interested in interviewing us. Jocelyn conducted an initial interview that same day to ask us some preliminary questions on the behalf of the birth mom, Kat. We met with Kat the next morning. That meeting went well, and we had the opportunity to meet Caleb Josiah. Around 4 p.m. that day, Kat asked us if we would be willing to accept Caleb into our family. The fact that we were ready to say yes less than 48 hours after becoming aware of this opportunity is a testament to God's orchestrating the events of our lives for months and years prior. I, in particular, am not the kind of person to make quick decisions, but in so many ways, we were both ready for this moment, and we were thrilled. Wednesday night, there was a handing over ceremony at Vision of Hope. That night, we took Caleb to our home, less than 3 days after we knew that he needed one, and 9 years after we started looking for him. We celebrated Christmas together and then introduced him to his new extended family.
Becoming a mother was a little crazy at first since I had only 1 day really to process the whole experience instead of 9 months. I didn't get much sleep the first few nights, but I treasured every moment of it. We fell in love with Caleb right away. He has an infectious laugh, a sweet disposition, and dimples. God clearly had a much better plan for us than I had. Before Caleb, I went to work from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Now I stay home with Caleb and work 24/7. Before Caleb, I would talk to Brian about my day at work, interesting phone calls or projects I was working on. Now I find myself talking to Brian about whether Caleb had a bowel movement or not. It is much more work being a mom, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Before Caleb, I had accepted the fact that I might never be able to experience everything that comes with being a mom. Now that I'm a mom, I look forward to watching Caleb learn to walk, bandaging a scraped knee, teaching him to read, helping him ride a bike, cheering for him as he plays sports, crying at his graduation, crying when he gets married, and maybe someday I'll be a grandmother.